a horrific accident that will have everyone saying, is Final Destination actually a documentary? And then we take a look at the story of a UFO crash. A saucer from another world impacts our sweet, dear planet Earth. When one man arrives at the scene, he sees some unusual creatures crawling out. And you won't believe what happens next. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio.
Actually, I'm a lot freaked out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you guys are having a great day too. I hope you guys had a great weekend and a great week. I'm sorry about last week. I'll explain that in a second. Let's actually bring in our guest for this episode. Running into Dead Rabbit Radio Command, everyone get on your feet and give it up for legacy Patreon supporter, Stephen B. Woohoo, yeah, wee! Yeah, he's all walking on in impatiently. He's like, dude, what happened last week? So, yeah, I apologize. I had actually only planned on taking a couple days off. It turned out to be more than that. It turned out to be like 9 or 10 days. And the reason why, everything was fine. You know, people were reaching out to me. My good friend Molly was like, are you still alive? As long as episodes are being posted, you guys should know that I'm still alive. But I appreciate the emails, people wondering where I was at. Yeah, I didn't plan that. I had a 3-day trip planned. But bookending that, is that the right way to say that? I got a car. I'd been talking about that before. I got a car. And if this is your first time, people buy cars all the time and they still show up to do their job, Jason. If this is your first time listening to the show, because it is for some of you guys, I haven't driven a car in 14 years. So I bought a car, and I was just kind of like, I had to have it delivered to me. It's not a new car, it's an older car. But I had to have it delivered to me. The person I bought it from, I was like, can you drive it over? She's like, what? I was like, I haven't driven a car in 14 years. I don't even have insurance. So they drove the car over to me, and I just kind of sat in it for a while. And then that was taking up a bunch of more time than I thought it was going to. Parking permits and getting the registration and all that type of stuff done. And driving it. Now I've realized something. I've driven the car now for probably about 20, 30 miles around town. Driving in Hood River sucks. It's really, really awful. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that because I've lived up here for 14 years. I haven't driven a car for 14 years. There's one-way streets. Every block, it's a different speed limit. It's super insane. I don't know who built this town. It was built before cars were invented. To be fair, it is older than the automobile, but man, it sucks. You're constantly changing speeds, going slower. You're going 25 miles an hour, and then you have to go 20 miles an hour for the next 2 blocks. Then you can go back to 25, and then if you make a left, it's 45 miles an hour on that road. So I'm dealing with all that stuff. I was walking everywhere. There is no one-way street if you're walking. There's no speed limit either. The speed limit is set by whatever dog chooses to chase you that morning. So I was getting used to that, so I was spending a lot of time driving. So I apologize. That's why I wasn't recording episodes. Jason, you only drove 30 miles in a week. Well, listen, it's a long story. I was doing other stuff that week. I did have that 3-day trip, but I apologize. It kind of came out of the blue. I didn't even have a chance to make an audio announcement. So I go, I'll just keep putting the retro rabbits out there. I know the show's going to be back. I also, what's really hard for me when I'm driving is looking at all of my mirrors. Because I used to be really good at that. I used to do that thing where I'd look at my left mirror, look at my rear view mirror, look at my right mirror, then I'd look straight ahead. Then I'd look at my left mirror, my rear view mirror, my right mirror, straight ahead. And I would do that for, 3 or 4 hours while I was driving. I got really good at it. I knew what was going on around me at all times. Well, I stopped doing that. Listen, I'll say this. If an insurance adjuster or a judge is listening to this episode, I've completely fixed whatever problem I'm about to describe. You can't hold me accountable. I'm driving the car. I'm constantly looking at the speedometer, right? Because I don't know how fast I'm supposed to go. I just know it's slower than whatever I'm doing. And a good minute or two would go by and I'd be like, oh, I haven't looked out my rearview mirrors yet. I haven't done that yet. A bunch of dead pedestrians on one side and a bunch of crumpled cars on the other. I was like, oh, wait, yep. Forgot about that. Forgot about checking the side mirrors. So, I'm just getting back into the habit of that. Looking at all the mirrors, looking at the speedometer, looking straight ahead, gripping the wheel with both hands in some sort of death grip. Listen, I'm a great driver. I'm an excellent driver, but it's just getting back into it in a new city that is horribly designed for vehicles. But anyway, so there's that. I apologize, but I also thought you guys would find it funny. You're like, wow, it took him 9 days to drive and he still doesn't seem like he had. But anyway, someone who will be driving right now, Stephen B. I'm going to toss you the keys to the Jason Jalopy. Everyone climb on board this lovable hunk of junk. As we leave behind Dead Rabbit Radio Command, Stephen, why don't you go ahead and drive us all the way out to Turkey? We're headed all the way out to Turkey. It's a nice leisurely drive, and along the way, I tell you this. I went and saw the new Final Destination movie last night, Final Destination Bloodlines. I'm a huge Final Destination fan. I've seen all the movies in the theater. The Final Destination movies are all about a string of events leading to an unavoidable and grisly death. All the characters throughout the movie, they could have died a fairly quick death in the beginning, but because they foiled Death's plan, now Death is going to kind of go out of its way to make you suffer. The movies do make you pretty paranoid, but I do like them. I think they're good. Especially number 4. Well, in Turkey, let's take a look at this story. It is very Final Destination-esque. It's August 11th, 1965. It's early in the morning, 3:15 a.m. to be exact. So the sun has long retreated from this world. Now the world belongs to the headlights of passing vehicles. We're in the Hendek district, which is in Sakarya province, Turkey. Specifically, we're on the D100 highway near the Kargalay Hanababa village. On this particular early morning, there was a truck carrying nitric acid. And the truck drivers are, what? Huh? What's going on? No. Let me just get The truck driver goes, what was that? Oh man, old Betsy here seemed to have some sort of mechanical failure. I don't know what it is. Is it the gear shift? Are my brakes out? Low tire pressure? His truck's just stopped. It's kind of on the side of the road, but not entirely. So it's a hazard. It's this big truck pulled over as much as he could. Now, the way that the side of this road was, is you had the road, you had the side of it, I forgot what that's called, the elbow or the shoulder of the road, I think. And then there's this, like, almost trench or small pond full of water there as well. All completely innocuous things on any given day. Now, there was a passenger bus in this area headed from Istanbul to Ankara. And this bus had 40 passengers on it, plus the driver. Now, it's 3:15 in the morning. A lot of the passengers are asleep when this bus is coming around, and the driver looks up and he sees this cargo truck, this truck full of nitric acid in front of him. He has zero time to react. He crashes into the truck, and immediately nitric acid begins to spill out of it. The acid is splashing all out into the road. The impact of the bus to the cargo truck wakes everybody up on the bus. But what happens is, you have people waking up on the bus, they were completely unaware of the car crash, they didn't see the truck around the corner, they didn't see anything leading up to it. You're dead asleep, the next thing you feel is a violent reaction, right? Ugh, your body's getting thrown around, no matter how good your dream was, it's over now. You wake up, and you can figure out a couple things really, really quickly. 1, you've just been in a car accident. 2, you can smell the telltale signs of a vehicle fire. There was no fire, though. What these people were smelling was the nitric acid spraying out of the tanker truck. but it's in the middle of the night, you're woken up, you know that you've been in a really bad accident, you smell those fumes, you think the bus is on fire. You go, I gotta get off this bus. The bus is on fire. Is it gonna explode? Am I gonna be trapped in here? And that's the thought that a bunch of people had, and in the dark when people are yelling, it's on fire, get off. Even if you don't know for sure what's going on, you smell something, you know you've been in an accident, now this person next to you is screaming, fire, 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 everyone's getting up to get off the bus. But what they don't realize that if they step off the bus, they will be stepping directly into nitric acid. Nitric acid's earned its name because it will eat through flesh and muscle tissue fairly quickly. I mean, there's probably another scientific reason why it's called an acid, because if you put baking soda on it, it makes a volcano. You step in this stuff, I mean, you have to have all sorts of safety gear to be around it. You step in it, it's going to cause severe burns, sometimes within seconds. Sometimes it can take, 30 seconds, a minute, but I wouldn't put that to the test. Right? I'm like, oh, that particular nitric acid looks weak. Oh, that's lame. Look at me. I'm splashing in it. Let me know when 59 seconds have passed, and I'll jump out. No burns. No, it'll begin to react with your skin. Extremely painful. If you're standing there for too long now, you're going to start dissolving your muscle tissue. It's really, really bad to walk in. However, I mean, you can have some sort of safety gear. And luckily, if you're wearing rubber-soled tennis shoes, sometimes that's enough. Because you're not going to be hanging out in there. You're not going to jump out here all stretching. You're like, oh, man, what a long trip. Oh, my neck hurts from the car accident. You're just standing in a puddle. You're like, oh, don't worry. Rubber-soled shoes. If you had to, in a pinch, jump in a puddle of nitric acid, and you had on sneakers, you had on something from Foot Locker or wherever, you could walk through night. Legally, I don't know if what I'm saying, I'm not saying you should do this. I don't want someone to come to me with burned feet. You go, hey, he did say I could do this. He clearly said if I bought shoes from Foot Locker, I could walk through nitric acid. You could run through it. Again, I don't know if legally, let's say, pretend all the lawyers aren't listening. You might, that's the word I was looking for. You might have a good chance of walking through nitric acid at a brisk pace if you're wearing a pair of tennis shoes. Because the fumes are still going to be pretty bad. You're like, my eyes are melting, but I'm standing perfectly still. Jason was right once again. If you were on a bus and you had to get off the bus and there was nitric acid outside the bus, you actually have a pretty good chance you just step out of the bus and run away. The next person does that, So the fact that they've crashed into this nitric acid storage truck, not a huge deal once they realize to just get out of the area quickly. But here's the thing. This didn't happen at 2 p.m. This happened at 3:15 a.m. Almost everyone on the bus was sleeping. Do you sleep with your tennis shoes on? Most people had taken their shoes off for the long journey. The trip from Ankara to Istanbul, it's quite a long trip. So people took their shoes off and fell asleep. So this bus accident was almost specifically designed for people who had no shoes on that night. You jump off the bus because you think the bus is on fire, you can smell it, you don't have your shoes on. You're in such a panic, you're not going to sit there and lace up your Air Jordans. So the first person gets to the bus door and jumps down into a continuing, growing puddle of nitric acid. Remember, it's still spraying out of this truck. And immediately their feet begin to burn. They're screaming. The pain is... You don't even know what's going on at that point. You're not even thinking that you might have stepped in a toxic substance because 30 seconds ago you were deep asleep. This is a whole new situation for you. The next person jumps off the bus and they also begin screaming. Now imagine you're on the back of that bus or even halfway through this group trying to get off. You hear people screaming outside. You don't know why. Is the bus about to explode? What's going on? Is it some threat that I'm alerted to now that I can't see people are just pushing their way off the bus. And each time another person gets off the bus, they are exposed to this nitric acid. Some of them did have on proper footwear. And they were able to get away, get out the door, but you had people just screaming and crying, and their feet are burning. And they can't get the burning to stop. And remember, you had 40 passengers on this bus. These people are getting off. The fumes are extremely powerful, even though they're outdoors now. It's a toxic fume. It's a toxic liquid or an acidic liquid. They're screaming. They're crying. They just want the burning to stop. And that's when one of the guys looks and sees that nearby, like right next to all of this, is a big puddle of water. Puddle's not even the right word. It's like a ditch filled with water. And he goes, wait a second, if this stuff is toxic that's burning my feet, I need to wash it off. Out of the 40 people who were on the bus that night, 18 of them who were overcome by these fumes and were stepping in this liquid and burning, their feet were burning, 18 of them made a decision to jump into the ditch full of water. It's the only way to stop the burning. There's a couple problems with that, though. Because this ditch wasn't just filled with water. By the time these bus passengers began jumping in, it had already began to fill up with nitric acid as well. It was just an ordinary pond all that time until this truck got rear-ended and all the acid began spraying out, and it sprayed all over the road and all over the shoulder of the road and began leaking into the water-filled ditch. The people who jumped into the nitric acid water mixture melted. I mean, that has to be one of the most horrific ways to die. I mean, you can't even imagine it. You can't even imagine it. And what would you do? Would you be like, well, of course you'd be doing that. You're all checking your watch. You're like, oh, this acid isn't as strong as Jason made it out to be. No, you'd be screaming, you'd be in pain. And I don't even know if shock would kick in, because it would be just eating through, like, once you got used to it, you don't get used to it. You have no skin. You're like, well, now the worst part's over. Well, no, it's not, because now you got all your nerve endings. You got all your muscle being eaten away. And really the only way you could speed it up would be to dunk your head and just be like, just eat my head, acid, eat my head. Just get in there, eat my brain. The acid's like, nope, we're contrarian acid. We're going to eat everything but your brain. We're going to let you be a skeleton with a brain in it. The only way you could hurry it along would be to, like, dunk your head in it. I think nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. What a horrific, horrible way to die. And the thing that ups it up there as well, rather than just melting, is I always find it so much more grim and sad when people make a decision that results in such a grisly death. Now, it makes sense. You're burning, you have something on your skin, you want to get it. What do you do when you have, like, mud on you? Or gross, like someone spilled a peanut butter and jelly on you? That's not gross, that's delicious. I'm all eating my shirt. I was like, yummy, spill some more stuff on me, good sir. You wash it off, though, when you get something on you, so it makes sense. But imagine jumping into the pool of what you thought was just water, but it also contains a bunch of nitric acid, and the second you splash in, your entire body starts to melt. Like, you're like, that was not a good choice. Not a good choice, to say the least. Horrible, though. You wouldn't know until you did it. You know, every so often someone melts at Yellowstone. They're goofing off near the geyser. There was that guy who jumped in to save his dog. His dog fell into a hot spring, and the guy jumped in after it, and his buddies are like, dude, don't do that. And he's like, no way, I'm doing this, man. And then the dog died, obviously. It got cooked. And the man came out, and his eyeballs had melted out of his skull. And they pull him out of the hot spring, and he goes, I shouldn't have done that. And he died shortly afterwards with no eyeballs. So, I mean, it's like, that's the worst. He shouldn't have jumped in after his dog. I get it. I don't get it, actually. I wouldn't jump in. I don't even think I'd jump in after a human. If someone that I really loved and cared about fell into a hot spring, I'd be like, I'm being honest with you, because I'm not going to melt. I have a no melt policy. And if more people had that policy, there'd be a lot less melting. But here's the thing. This was an accident. So was the Yellowstone thing. People are jumping in to say, I guess that's not an accident. You did it on purpose, but you died on accident. Well, no, I guess he died on purpose too. My point is that he didn't mean to die. He thought he was going to, I don't know what he was thinking, but he thought he was going to save his dog. My point is that it always makes it worse when people make a decision that leads them to melting. Or really any grisly death. I'm like, oh, that guy got electrocuted. The guy got electrocuted in front of his family? Oh, well, at least he didn't melt, and his kids are all crying. I was like, take solace in that, kids. No, I mean, it's always sad, right? But the melting ones are the worst. And Turkey agrees with me, by the way. I'm not alone on this. This is a national tragedy. They actually built a big memorial to this accident. Now, the 18 people who melted on the scene, they just buried them there. They buried him there and built this memorial. And talks about this whole thing. You ended up having 7 other people who were injured at the scene, including the truck driver, who died at the hospital later. So 7 people plus the truck driver died later off the scene, and then 17 others were injured. Terrifying story. Terrifying story of a group of people that were almost doomed from the beginning. If the bus crash wouldn't kill them, then the fumes would. If the fumes didn't kill them, then the nitric acid was going to give them severe scars on the bottom of their feet. And if that didn't kill them, you can live with scarred feet, but you know what I mean? Like, it would hurt really bad. And if that didn't hurt them and then kill them, they jumped into a puddle and melted. Melted in front of each other. That's the worst. That's the worst. If you're melting by yourself, oh, it's so embarrassing. All your clothes melt first. You're like, oh no, my love handles don't look. As you're all melting, you're like, oh, look, I'm losing weight. No, I mean, it's worse when you're watching someone else melt in front of you and you're melting too. I don't know why. It just seems worse. But it's almost like some of these people were doomed from the start. Terrifying story. Now, I will say this. Expect many, many more of these types of stories now that, because I'm obviously anxious about driving, right? So you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be the new meta for Dead Rabbit Radio. Every so often, Jason's going to come with a really horrific car accident story, because he's obviously having issues with having to drive a car after 14 years. Absolutely terrifying story. Yeah, it's called the Traffic Martyrs Memorial Cemetery that you can visit in that region of Turkey. It's a big event. Like, it is something that changed road safety laws and all of that, and probably nitric acid container laws. It's unfortunate sometimes it takes a tragedy for these changes to take place, but maybe it would save other lives in the future. Hopefully it did, but these guys, ugh, what a horrible way to go. Okay, Stephen B., let's go ahead and toss you the keys to the world-famous Carpenter Copter. We're going to go ahead and leave behind Turkey. Why don't you fly us all the way out to Utah? And as they're flying out there, we see a UFO falling from the sky. Flames shooting out of it. Whoa, dude. Bunch of pieces flying off of it. You're like, wow. We're getting an up-close, personal version of this UFO crash story Jason promised us in the intro. Well, I don't have time to tell that story. I just want to give you a little bit of tease of that. We're so close we can smell the burning metal. I don't have time to tell that story. I spent too much time talking about a horrific bus crash and how embarrassing it would be to melt in front of other people. So we don't have time to tell that crashing UFO story. We'll tell that later in the week. But it is a humdinger. It sure is awesome. It's a good one. But we don't have time to tell it. So Stephen B's flying us out to Utah. Provo, Utah, to be specific. And even more specific than that, this is one of those cool stories where we have an exact address. So you could visit this place. You could visit this place if you wanted to. You're like, can't I visit the UFO crash? Probably. Once I tell that story, you can. But for right now, we're headed to Provo, Utah. We're headed to the Old Mill Condominiums on 724 West, 1720 North. A weird way to have streets out there. But anyways, I guess it must be a big grid city. 724 West, 1720 North Road, there's a condominium complex called Old Mill Condominiums. Now, this is where a lot of students live. It's actually located in between Brigham Young University and Utah Valley University. It's not campus housing. Anyone could live there. You could live there if you wanted to. You could move right in. This is my new job as a real estate salesman. The last half of each episode is going to be me featuring a different place that I'm currently the property management for. Provo, Utah, Old Mill Condominiums. A lot of college students live there because it is right in between the two universities, so I'm sure it's a pretty happening place to be. I'm sure you can go there and see a bunch of girls walking around in bikinis. Now, here's the thing. You go, what? Are you a stalker now? A property manager and a stalker? That's pretty efficient. I work where I stalk, and I stalk where I work. Well, I'm not saying that the girls are in bikinis just because I'm some sort of old pervert. That's not the reason why that's the first thing that popped in my head when I thought of college-age women. No, this is going somewhere. So you have a bunch of women walking around in their bikinis. And I'm sure there's some young studs there as well. I'm sure there's some dudes walking around without their shirts on, but they're not really important to this story. The point is that you have a lot of young, attractive people at this condominium. You're really going, where are you going with this? You have your phone in your hand. Like, should I call 911? I don't know where he's going with this. Well, I'm not the stalker. I'm not the pervert hiding in the bushes. But somebody is. And this is where this story gets weird. Because, listen, let's say that you're a young college co-ed. You're this young woman attending Brigham Young University. You're lounging around in your apartment wearing a bikini. And it's nighttime. Did I say it's nighttime? It's nighttime, and you're in your bikini, and you're kind of just like stretching your muscles out in your living room. And you look out your window, and you see that someone is watching you from the bushes. And you gasp. Now here's my question to you. What's the scariest thing you could see? What's the scariest? You're all Ronald McDonald? I mean, anything would be scary. If it was staring at me while I was wearing a bikini and I'm home alone. You look outside your window, you see someone in the bushes watching you. What's scarier? A normal-sized man. A normal-sized man, not notable by any means. He looks just like everyone else. Really, the only reason why you are concerned now is because he's in your bushes watching you. But if you were walking down the street and you saw this guy walking down the street towards you, you wouldn't really want to think anything of it. It's just because it's late at night and he's in the bushes is why you're scared. That's option one. Option two, you see like a dork. Kind of a scrawny guy standing in the bushes. And then you see a man in the bushes. This is your third choice. Your third choice is a man in the bushes, but he looks like a defensive lineman. He looks like a big football player guy standing in your bushes. Like, which one's scarier? Obviously, this is a rhetorical question. The broad-shouldered football jock standing in your bushes watching you stretching a bikini in your living room. That would be the scariest one because it's the most obvious physical threat. Sure, the scrawny guy could have a shotgun, and the normal-looking guy might have like a chainsaw in his back pocket. It's a big back pocket. His back pocket's about 4 feet deep. But without any sort of other instrumentation, i.e. a weapon, the scrawny guy and the normal stature guy, they really don't pose a huge threat. You don't want either of them in your bushes, sure, but the football player guy, that's going to be a physical threat to almost anyone else outside of that particular build. I mean, unless you're a big guy is a threat, a physical threat to you, with or without a weapon. So, having sightings of a large football player type body, that's a weird way to put that. There have been sightings of a man with a football player type build, very broad shouldered, very stout, powerful looking man hiding in the bushes of this apartment complex or this condominium complex over the years. You go, oh, so is this a true crime story? That there's this uncaught stalker. There's a stalker that no one's... A peeping Tom would probably be more accurate. But again, now we're just kind of quibbling over definitions. It's a guy in the bushes. You're like, is that a stalker or a peeping Tom? Let's debate this. You go, oh, so this is like some unknown stalker that's been in Provo, Utah. Well, here's the thing. If he had only been sighted for years, I would say yes. It'd be more accurate to say this figure has been spotted spying on women at this condominium complex for decades. What we are looking at is a very unique type of ghost. I can't think of one that we've covered that would match something like this. It is a peeping Tom spirit. It is a ghost that haunts this condominium complex. What's the right word for that? Condominiums? It's a ghost that haunts this location, but not the inside of the units. It's always outside of whatever unit it's at. It moves around the location. It moves around this particular complex. It never enters the living spaces. It's always outside. And it is only sighted watching women. So if you and your dudes are hanging out, kicking back with a couple brewskis, watching the big game, he's not interested in you. He's not spying on you while you're walking around in your boxer shorts. Boxers. Well, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with the human language in this episode. Boxers. You're walking around in your boxer briefs, or maybe your tighty whities. You probably might have more on if your boys are over and you're watching the football game. But for you, this is some sort of themed party, so it's a tighty whitey Super Bowl party. So you're hanging out with your guys, you're drinking beers, you're all wearing super tight, clean white underwear. There's no crazy stalker ghost outside your window. You're just kicking back with your boys. But you have the apartments or condominiums, or whatever you want to call them, where women are living. There's always a chance they may look out the window and see this large hulking shape staring at them. Now, it's interesting because, I mean, really the reason why I said what's scarier is, even though this is a spirit, and the first time you saw this, if you didn't know this story, you would think there was a real flesh and blood creep standing outside your apartment. You really would. You wouldn't go, what? That's a ghost. You would think that that was a real human, so you'd be alarmed. You'd be worried. You'd be calling the police and all that stuff. But it's not. It's a manifestation. It's some sort of paranormal entity. And so my first question is, does the size of the entity, assuming that it's human, raise or lower your threat level? Really, it shouldn't matter if you think about it. A ghost that is built like Shaquille O'Neal, in essence, is just as scary as a ghost in the shape of an old woman, an old grandma, right? I mean, they're both terrifying for different reasons. I mean, I wouldn't want to wake up at Shaquille O'Neal at the foot of my bed. I wouldn't want to wake up with a 90-year-old woman walking around the foot of my bed, but it's creepy for different reasons. But technically, the threat level would be the same. The old woman, she would be able to, because there's no physical limitations, in theory, she should be able to jump on you while you're sleeping and choke you out and slap you around a little bit. And the shack ghost could do the same thing. And it's not like the shack ghost, the slaps would hurt more. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? In real world, if I fought a grandma, I'd come out on top every single time. But if me and the grandma were spirits, the physical form, the shape that we're taking, it's not physical form, it's just the shape that we're taking. I might have had a stroke earlier, but my language is all messed up. If me and the old woman were both spirits, then we don't have physical strength. The size of the ghost shouldn't matter to the level of danger. That's kind of where I was going at. In the real world, yes, you are more afraid of someone with a muscular build than someone who is not. But in the paranormal world, it shouldn't matter. However, when you do hear about a ghost with a hulking physical form standing outside, we still react in a physical threat way. Isn't that interesting? Like, it is a weird thing. I've thought about this story and I go, outside of a little girl standing out of the middle of the night singing Ring Around the Rosie, that's scary for different reasons. But the ghost of someone who is scrawny and the ghost of a big guy, they pose the exact same threat. However, and you know that, you just know that. However, when you hear about a ghost, a big hulking ghost standing outside your house, it's scary. We do find it a little more scarier. What's also interesting is that, so this story has been going around for a long time in this area. You can find a lot of accounts of it online, and you've seen two different paths when this story pops up. One of them, the first thing that I thought of was, has anyone died here? We have an exact location, which is always helpful to figure that out. And you do find variations of this sighting that say there's a report of years, decades ago, however long ago, a 27-year-old student. I think most of the stories start around the 70s or 80s. It's not like 1940s, 1930s, but the story goes, at one point there was a football player typed man there, which would make sense because you have a lot of students being here. You probably have football players here as well. Or maybe he was just like me. I have a big build, but I don't play football. Again, just to be clear, I'm not the Stalker. I'm not this guy in the bushes. But whether or not he was a football player, he definitely looks like one. There are a lot of accounts of this when you look it up online that state a unnamed student, when he was 27 years old, drowned in the pool at the condominium. You have other variations saying that he didn't drown in the pool. His body was found dead in the pool shed with no cause of death. So those are the two variations of that. I was not able to find any record of a student or anyone really dying at this location. Now, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It definitely would be awesome. I mean, not awesome if the guy died, but it would be awesome if we had proof of it. Like the purple porpoise story has been a ghost story that's been going around again for decades in Florida. And we were able to locate an article, a news article that someone luckily saved and posted online, showing that indeed there was a murder at that bar. It was a random murder. A girl was using the restroom and a guy came in and just started stabbing her while she was on the toilet and she bled out. So we were, you can read a dozen stories about the purple porpoise in Florida. I forgot what city it was in. I'll put the episode in the show notes. And they all say someone got murdered there, but we couldn't find any proof until we stumbled across this news article once. There may be something out there like this as well. There may actually be a news article saying who died and when and how. It's possible. We can't say that just because we can't find proof that no one died, that in fact nobody ever died at this condominium, which would be odd. People die in apartments, people die in condominiums, people die all the time, and unless it's truly notable to get in the newspaper, a 27-year-old possibly having a drug overdose at this residence, that's not going to be a front page of the paper. College student, death by misadventure, unless it was someone who was particularly notable in the area, it may be kept out of the paper. Possible. I forgot what the other thing said. I said there was two paths that this story goes down. One of them was that. Oh yeah, and so this was the other one, and we'll wrap it up like this, because this might be something a lot of you guys were thinking too. Because I didn't think this, but I found other people saying this online. They go, there is no ghost at all. There's no ghost. What it is over the years, men have been peeping Toms. Men have been watching these women walk around in their apartments, and that is what the women are citing. There's no ghost. It's just a continuous series of perverts who know that there are young, beautiful women at these places, right? Condominiums, apartments, pool parties, what have you. They're peeping Toms. I mean, imagine if every couple years a girl had a report of someone staring in her window at this condominium. It would be enough to keep the story alive, and she may just see something moving in the bushes, something standing there, and it runs away once it's found out. And she tells the police, and she tells all the girls there, hey, some guy was creeping on me. He was looking in my bushes. And somebody goes, well, what did he look like? I don't know. He was all dark. It was dark. It was late at night. Was he a big guy? Yeah, I guess he was a big guy. Oh, no, don't worry. That wasn't a real creeper. That was a paranormal specter from beyond the grave. He'll haunt you until the day you die. I don't actually what would be more relieving to know that it was a real human, a real pervert watching you in your most intimate of moments, or a ghost. Because on the one hand, the ghost is just watching you. It's not like he's masturbating in the bushes or anything like that. He probably can't do that. I'm assuming ghosts can't masturbate, but that actually might be a topic that I need to look more into. However, the ghost, even though this ghost is always sighted outside, who's to say, right, that you don't take a shower and he's standing there watching you rub soap all over your naked body? That'd be creepy. But on the other one, the guy standing outside of your house, he is masturbating, watching you. Disturbing to think about. And while he can't float around invisible in your house, he can break in. He can pry open your door and, horrible things will happen. Which one would be the worst? One, you're like, oh my God, Jason, that's horrifying. That's actually... Now that you put it that way, they're both so horrifying. I think we should just shut down the condominiums. Maybe shut down Provo, Utah. Some people say that either these sightings are actually real men being caught in the act of being a peeping Tom, or that men are using this story of a ghost as a cover for their peeping Tom-ishness. The reason why men would target this particular complex is because they also know the legend. And they know if they get sighted, they may not be blamed as far as, the police coming out looking for a person. The locals might just chalk it up to another ghost sighting, which is an interesting way to look at it. The ghost stories themselves may have been going around for years and decades. And maybe at one point it was an actual phenomenon, but nowadays, if you are there and you see a specter standing in your bushes watching you undress, it's really a dude who also heard the stories. And he knows that you may just blow it all off because you'll be like, oh, it's just Peter the pervert ghost. Oh, get out of here, Peter. And it's really like some dude who's in your algebra class. His name's also Peter. Weird coincidence. And he gets away with it because you may just think it's a ghost standing in your bushes. So you do see people say that online. They go, actually, this is probably just real life perverts, either using the story as a cover or that the story came out of just perverts being perverts in this area. It is interesting because the sightings are restricted to this one complex. So if that was the case, you think there'd be sightings of ghosts everywhere. You think there'd be more if this was not real, if it was just mistakes, real perverts being mistaken as ghosts. You think it would be happening in other places, but it apparently is only here in Provo, Utah. If that hypothesis is correct, and these are real people being mistaken as ghosts, or using the cover of a ghost story to be a pervert, it's almost Scooby Doo-ish. It really is a page out of that cartoon. That's basically every episode. Not a lot of masturbation in Scooby Doo, of course, but the idea that you're using the legend to suit your own means and dressing up as a ghost as they do in Scooby Doo. I don't know if these guys are dressing up. Dressing up as a big old football player. Some guy's like, oh man, I really want to be a pervert, but I don't want to get caught. So... And then he does like a training montage. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Dun-dun-dun-dun. He's like jumping over tires and running around track and stuff like that. And he's all sweating. Just cut to him sweating. The coach is like, you haven't even started working out yet. He's like, I know. I'm just thinking about how much I'm going to enjoy being a pervert. And the coach is like, what? Da-da-da. More of the montage. He's jumping rope. He's trying to jump higher and higher so he can look in higher windows off the ground. Da-da-da. He's jumping up to the second story. The coach is like, wow, that's like a 15-foot vertical, bro. Da-da-da-dun. He's sitting there. He's crawling through bushes so he can get his body used to the scrapes. But really, he's just trying to bulk up so he'll be mistaken as a ghost when he's a pervert. I mean, here's the thing. There's easier ways to do that. He's like, oh, now that I've used all my energy to create this body of muscle, I've kind of lost all interest in being a pervert. I think I'm just going to go into bodybuilding now. There's probably easier ways to do it. But if you wanted to be a pervert and you didn't want to get caught, listen, it might work. I'm not giving you legal advice. My legal advice is don't be a pervert. But I could see that actually working if you lived in this area. Now I feel I'm like, am I giving advice to perverts? I don't think any of you are perverts, but yeah, I could totally see it working, right? You could pretend to be a ghost. Now, what's funny, and we'll wrap it up like this, because I can see myself just coming up with 100 different examples and more montaged workout jokes. But anyways, we did an episode a long time ago. I don't know if we've done it as a Retro Rabbit, called Scooby Doo SVU, which I did not come up with that title. My buddy Carson did. I remember that to this day. I'm still jealous about that. It was about times when people used the world of the paranormal to commit sex crimes. It's actually a super dark, intense episode. I'll put it in the show notes, but despite the title, it is not very lighthearted. But there is this Venn diagram, unfortunately, that includes the world of paranormal and paranormal researchers and then sicko perverts who use such abilities or beliefs of abilities to prey on the innocent. We see it in cults, right? It's the same thing. I have this spiritual power. I want to sleep with you. Let me sleep with your wife. Let me do all this sexual stuff because God demands it or the spirits demand it, whatever. We've seen this stuff for ages, but yeah, it does have this horrible crossover. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility someone using fear of the paranormal to engage in their real life peeping Tom behavior. It would actually make sense if that was the case. And what's scarier, a real life peeping Tom or one that can turn invisible, float through your walls and watch you while you're sleeping? I mean, we don't ever have to worry about that because we don't live in Old Mill Condominiums in Provo, Utah. Here's the thing, I'll be honest, I could see them not wanting this story to get out. They wouldn't want the story to get out of someone dying on the premises. It's actually pretty easy to shut down news if it's not super notable. It's pretty easy to shut down local news. And after 5-10 years after the event, you're not going to find any proof of it anyways. This story, too, I will say this. If you look it up online, I was going through the Shadowlands.net. That's how I came across it. And it said, a ghost with the build of a football player is seen hiding in the bushes. And it was striking to me. Because it does add more of a threat, even though it shouldn't. A ghost is a ghost is a ghost. The physical sight shouldn't matter. It said this took place at Old Mill Apartments. There's no such place as Old Mill Apartments. I had to dig a lot, because I was actually kind of disappointed that the place didn't exist. I kept digging for Old Mill Apartments, and that was in Cottonwood, Utah. I knew the city. I knew the place in Provo. I knew it was Old Mill. They said apartments. I kept digging and digging and digging. Finally, I found out that, for whatever reason, a lot of these ghost stories call it the Old Mill Apartments. But the deeper you dig, you'll start to see other ghost stories that say, no, it's actually Old Mill Condominiums. And I don't know if that is some sort of SEO throw-off. I don't know if that is actually the condominium management or the landowners or whatever trying to bury the story. It's funny. It was a 2-sentence long story that I found online that I really had to dig to get any information off of. But once I found it, I started finding these reports at Old Mill Condominiums of it being haunted. But I don't know if they're trying to bury the story by changing the name of the location. And I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll find out if this episode gets pulled off of every podcast provider and the whole show goes down. And then we do know that the Old Mill Condominiums is making an effort to bury this story. Which again would make you think, wow, there must not only be a lot of truth behind this story, now there's an active cover-up to hide whatever the menace is here, human or supernatural. deadrabbitradio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at facebook.com/deadrabbitradio. TikTok is at Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today.